Welcome to AC 24/7 Top Story Countdown. I'm Aaron Dean. Right now, I'm here to guide you through the biggest stories of the day. Here's our pick for number 4.
When a person smokes, chemicals from the cigarette can cause the lining of blood vessels to swell and become inflamed. This can narrow those vessels and lead to heart problems.
I was a very healthy person. I ran every day. I ate correctly. The only one thing I did wrong was smoke.
After more than 20 years of smoking, Tammy says she was diagnosed with heart disease and underwent open heart surgery.
I was on life support for 2 days, and I had to fight. I had to fight my way back from death. So 2 days later, I woke up laying there with tubes in my throat, my hands tied down, and wondering what would happen, what went wrong. And it was at that point I knew it was a cigarette.
It's never too late to quit.
The CDC has a network of what's called quit lines, telephone centers that pair smokers who call in with trained counselors who can help with those who want to quit.
And once you get through those couple of uncomfortable days of nicotine withdrawal, you do begin to feel better and lower your risks of developing diseases caused by smoking, including cancer, cardiovascular disease, and COPD.
You will have to pay for smoking, so please don't quit quitting. Reach out for help.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The Advocate Channel looks at the world through the lens of equality, community, hope, and inclusion. AC 24/7's Top Story Countdown continues with our producer's pick for number 3.
3 years of high inflation plus higher interest rates to tame it have equaled more financial stress on the American consumer, especially when it comes to credit cards.
More people are carrying more credit card debt for longer periods of time. We're talking record high balances, record high interest rates. It's a tough combination, unfortunately.
A report released Tuesday by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York said credit card balances rose to a new high of $1.13 trillion in the final 3 months of 2023. And credit card and auto loan delinquencies pushed past pre-pandemic levels to their highest levels in more than a decade. Researchers at the New York Fed believe the post-pandemic resumption of federal student loan payments has added to the financial stress, particularly for people ages 30 to 39. Bankrate senior industry analyst Ted Rossman says he'll be looking closely at the New York Fed's next report in May. Typically, credit card balances fall in the first quarter of the year. In 2023, they did not, which can be a troubling sign about consumers' ability to keep up.
People always have this enthusiasm about New Year's resolutions and debt payoff, and you knock out that holiday debt hangover. Last year, people really weren't able to do that, and that was largely because of high prices and high rates, and I do worry that we may see some of the same this year.
In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
The Advocate Channel is now streaming live on Amazon Prime in the News app. Watch us there or go to advocatechannel.com. AC 24/7 continues with today's top 2 pick.
The stabbing of a 23-year-old Palestinian-American meets the definition of a hate crime, according to the Austin Police Department. Zachariah Doer agrees this crime against him was motivated by hate.
I was the only one there that had a Palestine flag and a keffiyeh hanging out the window. He came specifically to my door and drugged me from the vehicle.
The stabbing happened on Sunday following a pro-Palestinian rally in Austin, when Doer says the suspect, Bert James Baker, approached his car.
Then I looked around. I didn't see anything. And then my door was opened by a crazy guy, and he dragged me from my truck.
Doer was stabbed on the left side of his back and has a broken rib. He now worries about caring for his 5-month-old son.
That's one of my greatest joys, coming home to my son, and that was taken away from me. I haven't been able to pick up my son, be there for my son, do anything for him for the past couple of days.
Doer believes U.S. politicians, including Texas Governor Greg Abbott and President Joe Biden, should call for a ceasefire.
If those two people would have stepped up and said something to stand for us, said something to defend us, this would have never happened. But because they haven't said nothing for us, this is the cause. I'm not the first. I'm not the second. I'm not even the third. How many more have to go on for them to realize that this is wrong?
He says this attack will not stop him from advocating for the people of Gaza.
I just really wish that people would realize that when we go out there and we protest, it's not to cause a problem, it's to end a problem. And that's the problem in Gaza. Something like this it's not going to stop me from standing up for my people.
The Advocate Channel is your news source for news, entertainment, and trending stories. We're highlighting the advocates in our community. We have now arrived at our #1 story of the day. Take a look.
It was an obscure clause in the U.S. Constitution from the Civil War era and its path to the U.S. Supreme Court for arguments tomorrow on whether to disqualify former President Trump from office because of the January 6th insurrection was a wild ride.
The idea that you would actually bring a case, you would find a set of state courts willing to entertain it, that you would win all the way up the line, and then that the case would be before the United States Supreme Court being argued, that was a long shot.
Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, saying no person who's engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the Constitution or, quote, given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof, can hold any state or federal office. The Supreme Court's now got the case because of a landmark decision from the Colorado State Supreme Court in December, ruling that Trump couldn't be on the ballot in that state because of his involvement in January 6th. But the momentum had started earlier. Before the 2022 midterm elections, a left-leaning advocacy group called Free Speech for People filed lawsuits to try to disqualify some House Republicans, like Madison Cawthorn and Marjorie Taylor Greene, from running because of their ties to the January 6th riot. Greene testified in court.
I was not asking them to actively engage in violence or any type of action.
Those lawsuits failed, but they drew a lot of attention to the 14th Amendment. And that same year, a public official was thrown out of office based on the 14th Amendment. Coy Griffin, a county commissioner in New Mexico, who actually was a convicted January 6th rioter, was ousted in response to a lawsuit filed by another left-leaning group, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, or CREW.
That was another important milestone along the way. If it could apply to Coy Griffin, it could apply to Donald Trump.
The initiative picked up speed when two conservative members of the influential Federalist Society published a law review article saying Trump should be disqualified, and were backed up by a conservative former federal judge.
His conduct constituted an insurrection or rebellion against the Constitution of the United States.
Last year, the group CREW filed its lawsuit in Colorado, seeking to use the 14th Amendment to get Trump off the ballot there. Its lead plaintiff, a 91-year-old Republican and former Colorado lawmaker, Norma Anderson.
Engaged in insurrection or rebellion.
In December, after a Colorado state judge had ruled that Trump should stay on the ballot, the Colorado Supreme Court reversed her decision, ruling that Trump was ineligible for office.
That was a bombshell that reverberated all over the United States and around the world.
That's today's countdown. Download the Advocate Channel app on your phone or smart TV. We're also one of Fire TV's newest free live channels. There's more news and entertainment coming up after this break.